Yo, what's up, guys? BTR, Bees of the Rebel, here once again, here to talk something that has been making some news in recent days, and that is that boxrec, for those who don't know who boxrec is, they are a website that covers boxing. They basically cover the history of boxing. They cover fighters' records, who they fought, what their record was when they fought them. It's a pretty good website, so you guys should check it out. But they made a interesting list just come out recently, and it's already been out anyway, but I think it just decided to make headlines because Floyd decided to post it on his Instagram. And Floyd posted on his Instagram that the numbers do not lie. Now, according to boxrec, Floyd is the greatest fighter of all time. Manny Pacquiao is number 2. What I thought was pretty interesting about this list was that, and I have it here, is that Ali was number 4, Ray Robinson was number 5, which is interesting because most historians consider Ray Robinson to be the greatest pound-for-pound fighter of all time, considering that he was the guy that the phrase pound for pound was created for anyway. This is a very interesting topic for me because when I think about the best fighters of all time, this makes me think about what is that criteria. Now, the other day I'm texting my homie OCL, so shout out to OCL, and he has a YouTube channel coming out pretty soon, so you guys be sure to check that out. When it does come out, I will let you guys know. But we're talking about what makes you a great fighter, right? Is it being a great champion, or is it moving up in weight classes? Because I constantly see people talk about, put it this way, when you think about Floyd, you think about being undefeated. When you think about Pacquiao, you constantly, only thing I've ever heard in terms of why he's the greatest is that it's 8 divisions. So it makes me think, where do you put a guy like Larry Holmes who has 20 title defenses? Where do you put a guy like B-Hop? 20 title defenses as well, which is the middleweight record. Where do you put a guy like Joe Louis? 25 title defenses. Where do you put a guy like Klitschko? I believe 21 title defenses. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's 21. What my point is that is it simply about moving up in weight? And this starts making me think about a LeBron argument versus Jordan, which is it about simply getting to the finals? Is it about being undefeated in the finals? Well, what if the argument's if you lost in the first round, you can't be considered the best? Well, then Jordan's, he's exempt from that argument, right? You can't put him in the argument. So here's my quote unquote best fighters of all time, or greatest fighters of all time, and let's also talk about how we can differentiate between the two, right? So is there really a difference between the best and the greatest? Most times when people talk about the best, they're simply talking about who is the better fighter, the better athlete, or the better person in that field. When talking about greater, they're talking about the accomplishments. When you think about Floyd, which to me, he's the best fighter I've seen. When I think about the best fighters I've seen, I think about Floyd, I think about Pacquiao, I think about Roy Jones, I think about Muhammad Ali. Those are, from my personal opinion, those are the best fighters that I've seen, at least based on their division. And then I might have to throw Marvin Hagler in there as well. But it's so difficult because then I start thinking about Pernell Whitaker. And then I start thinking about Ray Leonard. Then I start thinking about Mike Tyson in his prime. I start thinking about Lennox Lewis, who is an amazing heavyweight. But there are so many great fighters, Bernard Hopkins. But when I think about the best fighter of all time, for me, it is Floyd. Simply because, not just because he's undefeated, because if we did that, then we got to throw Joe Calzaghe in there as well, which he is very underrated. And I think, contrary to a lot of people's opinion, I still think he would have given Roy Jones a great fight, even in their prime, even when they were young. I don't know if he would have won, but it definitely would have been a really good fight. I would have loved to have seen Joe Calzaghe and Roy Jones go at it, maybe 168 when they were both in their 20s. Would have been very interesting. But when I think about Roy, I think about that dominance, the most skillful, unskillful fighter that I've ever seen. Broke every rule, did everything according to his own textbook, not according to boxing textbook, did it how he wanted to do it, and he held down the pound for pound title for 10 years. Between 94 and 2004, that was the best fighter I had ever seen. When you're talking about when he moves up and he faces John Ruiz and becomes only the second fighter in history to move up from middleweight to heavyweight, and the first fighter to move up from junior middleweight to heavyweight, right? So, but I think his career, obviously, when you have to put it in its totality. But I think if you stopped it at John Ruiz, maybe that's the best fighter of all time. Who knows? But to me, when I think about Floyd, I think about wins over De La Hoya. I think about a win over Pacquiao. Pacquiao is one of the best fighters of all time. Some people think Pacquiao won that fight. I am not of that belief. I thought Floyd's jab controlled the fight, but we'll get into another day. Wins over De La Hoya, Pacquiao, Miguel Cotto. To me, in all honesty, I think his biggest win of his career was actually against Canelo Alvarez. Not because Canelo may be the greatest fighter on this list, but because of when he fought him. When he fought Canelo, that was a 154-pounder, even though I'm pretty sure it was a catch weight at 152. And I'm not a big fan of catch weights, and Floyd and Pacquiao have both done that. But nonetheless, it was agreed upon, and he put on a boxing masterclass when you're talking about facing a guy like Canelo, who's a very skillful fighter. So, but I thought Floyd just performed wonderfully in that match. And I think that's probably one of his biggest wins of his career. For me, his biggest win, his most impressive win, obviously, is probably Diego Corrales or Arturo Gatti. And probably Diego Corrales, just considering that is the only fight, I believe, that Floyd has ever been the actual underdog in the fight. If I'm correct about that. But people actually expected Floyd to lose. A lot of people did, which is very interesting. But nonetheless, Floyd knocks him down 5 times. But when you're thinking about the fact that he beats Pacquiao, he also beat Juan Manuel Marquez, right? And Pacquiao's argument is that we kind of grade Pacquiao on this handicap, which is that he's not a natural welterweight. And because he's not a natural welterweight, that means any win he gets should be amplified because he's fighting at a bigger weight class than he should be fighting, right? So obviously 8 divisions up. But to me, when you fight at a weight for 10 years, I no longer let you use the natural anything, right? So if on top of that, Pacquiao turned pro when he was 16 years old. When I was 16, bro, I was like 150 pounds. I'm 27 now, and now I'm like 205 pounds. 202, actually, just weighed myself, 203, something like that. But the point is that you are the weight that you're fighting at. Naturally, unnaturally, I don't know. I really don't know what that means, because when we think about pound for pound, and we're talking about, I've seen Max Kellerman make this argument that if Floyd and Pacquiao were the same size naturally, then Pacquiao would have won. Well, what does that really mean, right? What does the same size naturally really mean? And also think about what this, in terms of how fighters fight, think about you fight what you have. So when you're talking about Tommy Hearns, what if Tommy Hearns' arms were shorter, right? What if his arms were short? Does that mean he wouldn't be as great, or does that mean he would have adapted and became more of an end fighter? What if Mike Tyson was 6'5"? Would Mike Tyson have still been the same knockout punch artist, or would he have developed a better jab and fought from the outside? Maybe have been more of a Lennox Lewis. Speaking of Lennox, if Lennox was only 5'11", wouldn't Lennox be able to beat Mike Tyson? Who knows? Because fighters fight based on what they are born with. You fight on according to what your body type is, according to your strengths, weaknesses, all of that, right? So when I think about these different things, sometimes when you think about the fact that Pacquiao is actually smaller than a lot of these fighters, that could be a big reason as to why he's so much faster than most welterweights, right? And is that an advantage? Who knows? All I know is Pacquiao is one of the best fighters of all time. So is Floyd. Once again, to me, Floyd Mayweather is the best fighter of all time. I think just based on, and once again, this is very subjective. Which is why I thought it was very interesting, because boxrec used an actual point system, but I think it's very subjective. Once again, depends on what you're looking for. But one thing I'd like to know is, one, because I'm sure if you guys make it to this part, probably gonna get some people cursing me out because some people just hate Floyd and he's the runner and all this different stuff. And I'll make another video, because there's another video about a serious topic I'd like to discuss in regards to that. But who do you guys think is the best fighter of all time? And also, what's more important to you when you're thinking about the best fighters? Is it simply moving up in weight divisions, or is it being a dominant champion for a long time? So I want to think about, so what's more impressive, being a middleweight champion for 10 years or moving up in 8 divisions, let me know, because I think it's a very interesting topic. And once again, I'll be following you guys right back. I'll hit you guys right back up in the comments. Once again, it's BTR, Bees of the Rebel. I appreciate every view I get. Make sure you guys subscribe, hit that notification button. There's more on the way.